Hello, my name's Barrett, and I'd like to talk to you today about flipping your classroom. So as you can see here, I describe it as two sides of different coins. On the one hand, you have traditional classrooms, and on the other, you have flipped classrooms. So each has value, although one has the potential to create much greater value for both teachers and students. So the natural question would be, of course, what is the flipped classroom? The flipped classroom is the one in which the traditional classroom experience is inverted. The instruction takes place online or in modules that you send home with the students that they can play on their computers even if they don't have internet connectivity, while homework and other learning activities happen inside the classroom. Now there's several benefits to this that we'll get into. So the two sides of the coin whenever it comes to students' educational experience are their in-class interactions and also their out-of-class interactions. Now, generally what happens inside of the classroom is you have your lectures, you have your content delivery, the way that we transfer information to students. You also have in-class activities. These might be worksheets or maybe even group work. But ultimately what ends up happening is we rush through the content. We hope that we haven't screwed up any transitions and that we haven't had any disruptions that would prohibit us from getting through all the material. And then you rush through at the end to take time to explain whatever homework you're sending home, the practical activities where students are supposed to be exploring the content. And then with whatever time we can carve out, we try and figure out how successful we've been at delivering that information through assessing the students. And usually because of time constraints, we can't offer too many different options for students. As all of us know, some students do better with presentations than pen and paper tests. Some students do better writing reports than taking quizzes. So outside of the classroom, in a traditional framework, you have students doing homework. You have if students run into trouble, then we can get in touch with family members and see what we can be doing to try and improve whatever interaction between the educator and student. It's the 21st century, so maybe we can collaborate via email, but as most of us know, this isn't a perfect system. And social networking, while it would be fantastic to think that we'd be able to interact with students within the framework that they're most suited to, the one that they use all the time, unfortunately there's lots of problems that exist, and lots of barriers to this type of collaborative effort. And what this does is it shrinks the amount of time and the level of intimacy and efficacy we can have in interacting with our students. So in the flipped classroom, we'll start with what happens outside of the class. So within the classroom, whenever you're trying to offer lectures, lots of times students are either distracted, they're not paying attention, or you're simply moving too fast or too slow. So what the flipped classroom allows you to do is have the student set the pace of the learning. So whether that be YouTube videos or VoiceThread, which is something I'm going to be exploring here in a few minutes, it allows students to access the content at their own pace. It also opens up opportunities through learning or course management systems to collaborate with teachers and other students outside of the classroom. This could be discussion boards. This could be options like VoiceThread or various other tools that allow students to comment, provide feedback, even as a means of assessment, to work together on projects through Google Docs and various other collaborative technologies. So since the students are able to do things at their own pace, teachers can as well. So we can slow down or provide additional resources for those students who need them. And also, the students who are accelerated, who need more challenges, you can provide extended learning opportunities too. So many times whenever we talk about differentiation, we discuss only the students with special needs on the low performance end. But lots of times students are underachievers because they're simply bored. So again, we can provide additional resources for those students who need to catch up, and also those who are way ahead of the curve. Many students are not good test takers, and by eliminating that class time that you use for timed tests, and also just single issue tests, we can create opportunities to allow students to take tests multiple times to improve their grade, to actually learn for mastery. So many times we test a student once and we try to adjust our approach for the next time, but that doesn't do much for those students who have missed out on something in the meantime, and we're constantly rushing to keep up with the curriculum pace. So inside of the classroom, now since we have transferred the lectures and other content delivery to outside of the classroom, now we can use the class time for the practical work, for whenever students most need the support. So lots of students go home and they need help with their math or science, any of their homework, and either they don't have a parent or guardian or anybody that can help them out with that particular subject, or they might call their friends. They might copy off their friends. The point being, teachers are experts in their field, and having them do the homework inside the classroom creates opportunities for students to achieve with this professional support. So another means of assessment could be like interactive questioning. So as many of us know, the best way to learn oftentimes is to play the role of the teacher. If we have moved our assessments and our lecture time outside of the classroom in place of homework, now we have time within the allotted class time, within the limited space that we have with students, to explore what students actually know, what they can deliver, either through just conversations or allowing students to present some of their own content. So maybe, I'm sure all of us have had instances where you run into ideas that you just don't have time to get to. Students ask a terrific question, and you have to get through the rest of the material because you have to get that test done by the end of this week, because at the end of the quarter or the semester is coming up. So what we've done is we've created time to build on the information that we've delivered outside of the classroom, rather than depending necessarily on the limited time that we have with students. Big buzzword, project-based learning. So creating opportunities for students to learn by interacting with the content rather than just absorbing it. Giving students authentic problems and allowing them to figure out what's going on with the content through real-world applications. So lots of times we, as teachers, run into the problem of students getting frustrated because they don't feel like whatever they're doing is not going to have any application in the real world, and many times we just don't have time to answer this. Why do I need to know this question? So in addition to the idea exploration, we can combine those things with project-based learning or other student-created content to let students discover this answer on their own. And also, as I mentioned before, you don't have students, if you're there in the classroom, there's less of a likelihood of students simply copying other children's work. They get to really understand the material rather than just parroting it from what you said or what other students are doing. It allows time for students to really get invested in the type of work that they're producing. So what's the teacher's role within this new platform? One, as I mentioned before, is a source of help. So many times students come into the classroom in the traditional classroom with questions about the homework that you've assigned. And because you have these competing interests, you have the test coming up, you need to get through this material. You know that the end of the quarter is coming up. You know that you have certain standardized tests coming up. We're opening up time to allow students to ask those questions and also to give us feedback about ways that we can do our job better. Students many times come into the classroom without the skills that they need to succeed. Maybe we have students who don't read as well, or they don't have those type of study skills, or maybe they just needed a teacher to understand their particular learning style so that they could cater their delivery to that student's specific needs. And I know that many of us got into teaching to try and help students get through some of life's problems. And I think our role as mentor to young people is often overlooked. And again, creating that time allows us to become more invested in our students' lives. So some of the technological tools that we can use to implement the flipped classroom: videos, whether it be YouTube, Vimeo. There's lots of fantastic material on iTunes U and TeacherTube. Web 2.0 collaboration tools like Google Docs, Wikis, and VoiceThread, which I'll be investigating here in a moment. Screen capture software like Camtasia, ScreenFlow, which is what I'm using, Jing, QuickTime. And then you can record your lessons. You can record the notes that you're taking within the classroom and either print those off or send those off to your students for some of those students who don't have those note-taking skills yet. We can compress the content that we're producing to allow students to carry around our lessons on the devices that they're using all the time already, whether it be iPods, iPads, smartphones. I'm very interested in the possibility of doing podcasts and vodcasts. And then moving assessment, at least the formal assessments, outside of the classroom through course and learning management software like Moodle, Blackboard, and obviously Springboard type software. Takes a lot of pressure off of teachers who are spending hours and hours and hours grading and trying to organize that data. If you have these tools that you can quickly analyze how students are doing, you can adapt and change to find those students who are struggling, and also find better ways to have students collaborate and communicate their needs to you. Now we're going to have a look at VoiceThread.